It was 7:03 a.m. on a Tuesday when I opened my front door and nearly tripped over a box of adult diapers. Next to it sat a crate of glitter nail polish and a welcome to the neighborhood fruit basket addressed to someone named Karen. Now, I've been Mark Reynolds for all 22 years I've lived at 1342 Chaos Avenue, and I can tell you right now, I'm no Karen. I scratched my head, wondering if I'd missed a memo about a secret identity swap. Weirder still, Karen didn't even live on my street. At least, not until last week, when she decided my wind chimes were public enemy number one and launched a war that'd make Napoleon jealous. I stood there, staring at this random haul, and that's when it hit me. Either I'd lost my marbles, or Karen had stolen them, along with my mail, my porch, and apparently my whole dang identity. See, this wasn't just a mix-up. This was the start of something big, something petty, something that'd end with flamingos and a showdown for the ages. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to how it all began. A few days earlier, I noticed a delivery guy hauling a dolly stacked with 5 Amazon boxes toward my door. I'm no stranger to packages. My dog's chew toy obsession and my ongoing squirrel battles keep Jeff Bezos personally invested in my life. But when I bent down to check the label, it didn't say Mark Reynolds. It said Karen Brunstorm. Wrong name, right address. I waved the guy down, and he just gave me this tired, I've seen too much look and said, "That's what the system says, man. Sorry." Then he wheeled off, leaving me with 5 boxes, a mystery, and a gut feeling something was seriously off. The next day, the packages multiplied like gremlins after a rainstorm. 10 boxes now, pink garden flamingos, protein shakes for postmenopausal vitality, and what I swear was a beginner's taxidermy kit. I'm no detective, but I knew who was behind this. Karen. Every neighborhood's got one, right? Ours had 2, but this Karen? She'd staged a hostile takeover. She'd moved in 2 blocks down 6 months ago and immediately applied for vice president of the HOA like it came with a crown. Within a week, she'd filed 3 noise complaints, banned lawn gnomes, and written up my neighbor's stand for using the wrong shade of mulch. The woman never let go of her clipboard. It was practically glued to her hand. And when she decided my backyard wind chimes were auditory terrorism, she stopped asking the HOA for permission and started playing dictator. I figured I'd get to the bottom of it. So I marched to the post office, thinking maybe some intern had mashed up my info with hers after too many Red Bulls. But when the clerk pulled up the digital form, there it was, a change of address request submitted by Karen Brunstorm, redirecting her Amazon deliveries to my house, 1342 Chaos Avenue. She hadn't forged my signature or anything fancy. Nope, she just waltzed in through some shared HOA Google login we'd set up last year for budget spreadsheets. I guess when you don't log out, someone else logs in, and Karen, in her pastel jumpsuit and iron will, had turned my mailbox into her personal storage locker. I confronted her, of course, walked right up to her perfect little flower bed and rang the bell. She answered with this smug, untouchable smile, like she knew the law couldn't touch her. "Oh, Mark," she said, her eyes scanning me like a TSA agent. "You're looking weathered." I cut to the chase. "Karen, why are your packages showing up at my house?" She tilted her head like a pigeon who'd just won an argument. "Well, I did notice your address was a bit off. I thought I'd help clean up the system. Things have been so disorganized lately." Then she hit me with, "Maybe the universe is telling you to move somewhere more appropriate." That's when I realized this wasn't a glitch. This was strategy. Karen was playing HOA chess, and I was a pawn she wanted off the board. But the breaking point? That came the next morning when I opened my door to 34 boxes stacked on my porch. I counted them. 34. One was labeled Live Worms. Another had novelty mugs that said, "World's Okayest Neighbor." But the kicker? The last box had my name on it, Mark Reynolds, and inside was my favorite brand of coffee beans, already opened and half used. She'd gone too far. That's when I called Earl. Earl's the kind of guy who looks like he could dismantle a tank with a screwdriver and a glare. Retired Navy, smokes cigars that smell like sin and good decisions. He came over that night with a bottle of bourbon and a glint in his eye. "She changed your address?" he asked after I laid it all out. "Yep, claimed it was a clerical error," I said. "Buddy," he replied, sipping his drink, "this ain't petty warfare. It's a challenge. You gonna take this lying down, or are we sending in the fireworks? I grinned. I'm thinking Amazon-based retaliation. Earl leaned forward, eyes lighting up. You got a plan? Not yet, I said, but she's about to regret stealing 1342 Chaos Avenue. We clinked glasses, and that night, Operation Boxstorm was born.
I didn't sleep much that night, not out of anger, but excitement. Revenge is a dish best served with 2 days shipping and no returns. And Karen was about to learn that the hard way. The sun hadn't even cleared the rooftops when I woke up with one word bouncing around my head. Revenge. Not the bitter, slash your tires kind. No, I wanted the kind that'd make her question every life choice she'd ever made, without technically breaking any laws. That's where the magic happens. I sat at my kitchen table, coffee in hand, laptop open, fingers hovering over the keyboard like I was about to hack the Pentagon. First, I logged into my Amazon account and saw the damage. My shipping preferences were now defaulted to Karen Brunstorm at my address. Digging deeper, I found her account linked to mine through that cursed HOA shared drive. She wasn't just a rule follower. She was a rule evolver. Dangerous? Yes, but also the perfect opening. Amazon's got this nifty feature called wish lists. Public or private lists you can fill with stuff to buy or have others buy for you. And the best part? You can set the shipping address. I made a new account. Anonymous, squeaky clean, with a name just for flair. Victor Lasagna. Then I went to town, filling the wish list with the weirdest, most inconvenient, meme-worthy junk I could find. 15-pound tubs of fake nacho cheese, inflatable banana costumes, industrial barrels of glitter, a foghorn, 200 I Love Karen garden flags. All scheduled to ship to Karen Brunstorm, 1342 Chaos Avenue. Because as far as Amazon knew, that was her home now. Earl came by that afternoon, saw what I was doing, and nearly choked on a cigar laughing. We spent 2 hours adding more. Every item with a shipping note like Happy Anniversary or Good luck on your test to confuse the drivers and Karen alike. We weren't reckless, though. This was calculated chaos. She'd tamper with my reality, so I was flipping hers upside down. The first wave hit 2 days later. I was on my porch, pretending to prune a bonsai tree I'd never cared about until it became my surveillance post. The UPS truck rolled up, brakes squealing, and the driver staggered out with 4 boxes stacked so high he could barely see. He checked the label, scratched his head, and set them in Karen's yard with a shrug. Through my binoculars, I watched her open the first one. Yard-long bubble wrap, and a disco ball tumbled out. She stood there, muttering to herself, then dragged it inside like it had insulted her hydrangeas. Day 2 brought 6 more packages. Day 3, 10. By week's end, her porch looked like a Black Friday warehouse. I knew she was cracking when she started cornering neighbors on their morning walks. "Have you been ordering things to my house?" she'd shrill. Most shook their heads. One guy asked if she joined a subscription box service. My favorite? Little Timmy from next door, holding a plush octopus from one of the boxes, asking, "Miss Karen, is this for your baby?" She looked like she wanted to vanish into thin air. The tipping point came when the HOA WhatsApp group blew up. Someone posted a photo of Karen's porch. Towers of cardboard, an inflatable unicorn chair in the driveway, like a throne of madness. The messages flew. "Karen, you starting a party rental business? Can I borrow the glitter cannon?" She didn't respond. For the first time in recorded history, she went silent on a neighborhood thread. That alone told me we were winning. But victory wasn't just in the pileup. It was in her psychological meltdown. She started slipping. She filed a noise complaint against her own house for suspicious humming when the fog machine arrived. She called pest control to remove a pallet of rubber ducks. She even begged the post office to stop delivering to 1342 Chaos Avenue unless the name matched hers. The postal worker, Lance, a teen with indoor sunglasses and a cool Ranch Doritos vibe, just said, "That's how addresses work, ma'am," and walked off mid-rant. On day 8, she came for me, knocked on my door with a stack of boxes in her arms like a deranged Santa Claus. I opened slowly, half hoping she'd combust into passive-aggressive steam. Instead, she fixed me with a milk-curdling glare and said, I know this is you. One box had a Bluetooth singing fish. Another was oozing glitter. Karen, I said, looks like you got a fan. This isn't funny, she snapped. Then why am I laughing? She stomped off, leaving the boxes. Her critical mistake. By abandoning them, she technically handed me ammo. Earl and I dug into Amazon's return policy that night. Turns out, if you initiate a return but the item shipped to someone else's address, it often loops back to the original spot instead of the warehouse. With Karen's account still tied to mine, I triggered the chaos loop. I returned every flamingo, every wig, every crate of glow-in-the-dark yarn. A few days later, they boomeranged right back to her doorstep. Her porch became a shrine to karma, and she was unraveling faster than a cat in a yarn shop. The mailman, Dave, a quiet guy with a limp and 20 years on the job, finally broke. He walked up my drive with furniture-sized box for Karen, stopped midway, and sighed like he'd accepted life's futility. I can't do this anymore, he muttered. I offered him lemonade and a lawn chair, and he dropped the package like it was a surrender flag. This is something else, he said, staring at Karen's cardboard jungle. Did she open a warehouse? Is this a reality show? I chuckled. Maybe she's got a shopping addiction. He shook his head. She submitted 3 change of address requests for your house. The system's glitched. Half the mail's in limbo. You got a package yesterday for Lord Biscuit 3. Top hat and monocle. I didn't ask questions. 3? That was news to me. Karen hadn't just messed with me. She'd tangled the whole neighborhood's logistics. It was disturbingly satisfying.
The next morning, Karen lost it. She flew out of her house in a bathrobe, waving a glittery pink envelope like it was evidence in a murder trial. "Mark," she screamed across the street. "You're going to jail." I raked a patch of leaves that didn't need raking. What for this time? Mail fraud. Glitter terrorism. She marched over, envelope shaking. "You're harassing me. This is illegal." I try not to laugh. "You changed my address, Karen. What did you think would happen? I'd send you a fruit basket." Her face twisted, red creeping up her neck. "I slipped one time, one form. I was fixing the records." Her voice cracked, and for the first time, I saw panic, not smugness. This wasn't fun for her anymore. It was a nightmare, and I was the ghost in the machine. She stormed off, but that evening, Earl brought news. "You seen the HOA chat?" He grinned. "She's trying to ban porch deliveries over 30 pounds. I burst out laughing. She's legislating herself out of her own mess. "Mark," Earl said, "you've driven her to policy reform." A few days later, she called the cops. I was watering my tomatoes when the squad car pulled up. 2 officers, one old and tired, one rookie with a notepad, followed Karen to her porch. She pointed wildly at the boxes. The older cop knocked on my door. "Sir, we've got a harassment report involving package delivery." I nodded. "Yeah, there's been a lot of boxes lately." "You ordering stuff to her house?" "Nope. She changed my address in the system, public record." The rookie stifled a laugh. The older cop sighed, eyeing her box mountain. "You two need to work this out." Weirdest call I've had all week. Karen shrieked as they left. "This is insanity." But there was nothing illegal, just glitter, packages, and a guy she couldn't outsmart. That night, a delivery truck dropped the final blow. A full-size cardboard cutout of Jason Momoa in Aquaman armor, addressed to Karen. The driver hesitated, then left it on her lawn. She opened her door, stared at it, and dragged it inside without a word. That's when I knew the war was over. She was broken. 2 days later, an envelope arrived, red, glossy, screaming courtroom drama. Karen was suing me in small claims court for harassment, emotional distress, and porch-related trauma. I laughed twice, poured a drink, and got ready. The courtroom was a sad municipal box, stained carpet, bad coffee. Karen showed up in beige like a suburban angel, armed with a folder of screenshots and a chart. I wore flannel and carried one file, my ace. The judge, Harold Whitman, late 60s, bushy eyebrows, knew me from poker nights, but played it cool. Karen's opening was Broadway-worthy. Diagrams, tears over glitter, the trauma of stepping on a rubber duck. My turn? I calmly explained how she'd alter my address, backed by emails, receipts, and a USPS form she'd filed. "Did you authorize this, Ms. Brunstorm?" Harold asked. "I thought I was correcting a mistake," she stammered. "And you returned these items?" he asked me. "Yes, Your Honor. Amazon just didn't take them back." Karen interrupted. "Order disco balls on purpose." I shrugged. They weren't addressed to me. Harold held up a photo of her porch. "Any proof he bought these?" She froze. No evidence, just assumptions. Then I played my trump card, a report from Mrs. Greaves, who'd had her address messed with by Karen too. "Mail tampering," Harold muttered. "That's federal." Karen went pale. He tossed her case, scolded her, and gave me a symbolic $1. Victory. The war ended, but the chaos lingered, until a drone dropped a mini fridge-sized box of plastic flamingos on Karen's lawn. It burst, scattering hundreds across her yard. A video hit 50,000 views in an hour. Queen Karen's flamingo apocalypse. She stood there, defeated, flamingos at her feet. The next morning, a handwritten note arrived. I was wrong. I went too far. I got obsessed with control and hurt people. "I'm sorry. I'm stepping down from the HOA. Do what you want with your porch. It's your home." Below, a $50 Amazon gift card. I wasn't sure if she meant it, but it was enough. A week later, my porch was just a porch again. No boxes, no battles. I sipped coffee, watching the sunrise, wind chimes tinkling. Karen sent a peace offering, a lopsided ceramic frog for my garden. I set it by the tomatoes. It fit perfectly. She cleared her porch, waved hesitantly as I passed. It wasn't forgiveness, just closure. Then the HOA elected me president. 17 votes to a possum's 3. I didn't campaign, but people thanked me with cookies and pie for standing up to the clipboard queen. At my first meeting, I lifted the wind chime ban. The room cheered. Karen sent a letter wishing us luck, admitting her mistakes. I read it aloud, folded it away. Peace was back, not because I won, but because we'd all put down our clipboards. That night, I toasted the frog, the chimes, and my empty porch. May Karen find peace. May my porch stay quiet, and may no one ever order 200 pounds of glitter here again. The flamingo in her yard tipped over at last. The war was done.